It's surgery day. Got my braids done. Wearing this shirt that I also wore to my biopsy. Pretty nervous, but just doing my best to kind of be in the moment and try not to freak out too much. Yeah, so here we go.
You doing okay? How do you feel?
I feel like this must be what it feels like to be drunk.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I don't know.
Do you miss anybody right now?
You want me to say Tucker?
Oh.
It's like I totally still understand what's going on, and I could understand him saying everything. I think.
You remember that. It's just
Compared to my. Hi, it's Lauren, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I don't really know how to start this video and like what all to say. I just kind of wanted to tell my story about what I've gone through and kind of give like basically tell the whole story, because up until this point I've only shared bits and pieces, and I thought I'd share it all. So I had a tumor removed on June 23rd in a major surgery that took about 5 hours to complete, and I just wanted to share the story of that, of like my tumor story, I guess, and how that all kind of took place, I suppose. I have my little bread loaf just kind of like a comfort pillow right now because I'm kind of hurting. I'm in a lot of pain. So I guess the best place to start is at the beginning. So, stick with me because there's going to be parts that are like confusing as to how it correlates, but it all ties in eventually. Just stick with me. So, I started having periods when I was 13. It was the summer before my 8th grade year. I started having periods, and, puberty started doing its thing. And that same summer, I started having pain in my lower right side. The pain, I'm going to kind of tilt you down a little bit. It would go from my lower abdomen, even kind of shooting upward, is kind of where I feel like I would experience pain. And so at that point during that summer, I didn't know anything, right? And all I knew was, oh, my liver's over there. Maybe there's something wrong with my 13-year-old liver. So I did a week-long liver detox, just taking some over-the-counter, how they sell detox things or whatever. So I did that, and it didn't do anything, it detoxed me, that's for sure, but it didn't cure the pain that I was having. So the pain kept happening, and I, after doing some limited research, I thought it was middle schmers, which was pain with ovulation. So I thought it was that for a long time. And then when I got into, sometime into high school, I did more research, and then I thought it was endometriosis. So when I was 16 or 17, I started taking birth control for the pain because I thought it was endometriosis, because considering that I started having the pain after I started having periods, and it was in the region that, endometriosis could appear, it was like, well, that might be what it is. And so I started seeing a gynecologist and I got put on birth control. And now looking back, it makes sense why it was so difficult for me to find a birth control that worked for me to help manage the pain. So, sorry, it hurts to talk a lot. Anyways, I was put on birth control, and it took like a lot of different birth controls to find one that worked for me and that seemed to manage my symptoms. I still don't know if I have endometriosis, but after all this, I'm pretty sure it's like I don't have endometriosis and that this tumor was the culprit behind the pain that I've been experiencing. So, that's the backstory, is that I thought I had endometriosis. Endometriosis can only be diagnosed through laparoscopy, which is a surgery, and so I haven't had that done. And so up until that point, endometriosis is treated with birth control, and if it, seems to alleviate with birth control, that's believed to, be endometriosis, because if birth control is helping and it's, the hormones, then it's like, oh, well, then it's probably endometriosis. I had been taking birth control for that long up until, I'm still taking it right now, but because when I have tried to go off birth control, I get really bad like withdrawal headaches, and just considering what I'm going through right now, recovering from surgery, I don't really want to be dealing with bleeding and awful headaches right now on top of everything else. So it is what it is. Deal with all that on a later date. But anyways, like I was saying about birth control, that I've had been taking birth control, thought I had endometriosis. So all was fine, and my symptoms seemed to be okay. The pain would still come and go occasionally, and I just have notes on my phone of things and dates and whatever. So I started noticing a different kind of pain in February of 2022. Literally like the 1st of February, I noted that I was feeling numbness and tingling in my lower right abdomen. So, I'm sorry if I have to take some pauses to take some deep breaths. At that point, I think January into February, I saw a different chiropractor on a regular basis. I'm currently seeing a different one than I was seeing then, but they believed that I was having SI joint issues and that my SI joint was locking up, and that's what was causing the pain. And so I was seeing the chiropractor on like quite a regular basis, and I wasn't noticing any relief of my symptoms. And so at that point, I was just kind of like, something's up, something's not right. So, kept seeing the chiropractor, was trying to figure out what was going on, and so throughout the month, I still noted like having the tingling and the pain and whatever. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if it was endometriosis or what it was. In my mind, I was still thinking that it had to do with like muscle and joint things, that it was like my SI joint like having a flare up or something, because that's what I had been told. So into March, still noting on my calendar pain. And then April, I was still noting pain, still having pain. And then May, I don't know when I went to my primary care physician, but I went there with my symptoms, talking about all of it. I actually made a file of my symptoms. The date is May 2nd, 2022. And so I'll just read through this because why not? So I just titled this, you cannot see, but symptoms. So my symptoms, I first noticed around the beginning of February. Pain has persisted for about 3 months. Started as not serious pain, then slowly got worse and more severe. And the thing that made me realize, like, I need to go to a doctor, I need to figure this out, is when I had the realization that I couldn't remember what it was like to not have this pain because I'd been living with it for so long. This new pain that I was feeling. The reason also that I was like, I want to go to the doctor is because I had been familiar with what I believed to be endometriosis pain, and this felt different. It felt more severe and more persistent. So, that's what I said, that I'd had it consistently for so long, and the pain it comes and goes, but lately, it seemed like it hurts more than it doesn't hurt. Like, I'm out of the time of the day, there's more time that I'm in pain than when I'm not in pain. So, I also noted that I didn't see any relief from pain medication or muscle relaxers. Perhaps some help, but not anything of significance. I had used both ice and heat, and it only alleviated it temporarily. And when I first started feeling the pain, I was going to the chiropractor, and he said that my SI joint was locked up, and it kept locking back up and causing the pain. I've continued chiropractic care, but haven't seen relief from the symptoms. If anything, it's worsened. And I have been doing stretches and exercises and all sorts of things to help the pain, but none of it makes much of a difference. No movements that I was doing, because a lot of times it'd be like, oh, if you're sitting, does it worsen? If you're standing, does it make it worse? Whatever. And so to me, I noted that no movement seemed to make it worse or better, that I can feel the pain when I'm sitting or when I'm standing. But I did say that I notice it gets more aggravated when I'm standing in a still position. Like if I'm just standing and not moving, that really aggravated it a lot. Now, here's the part where I went to my PCP. This part really kind of aggravates me, but I'm not like hostile over this at all, or like angry or whatever, just kind of like disappointed, I guess. So went to my PCP, saw a doctor, not my regular doctor, and after I told them my symptoms, they were very adamant that I had constipation. And so it was like, they were basically like, okay, we're going to treat, constipation, because I got an x-ray and they thought I had an impacted colon, and that there was, I will say there was some impaction, but it could have just been normal and it could have passed on its own. Don't know. So for 2 weeks, I took fiber supplements, probiotics, laxatives, and laxative teas, and all this stuff. And I was literally, not to be gross, but I was like on the toilet for 2 weeks straight because I was just like taking so much stuff to empty me out. And, the doctor was like, oh, you'll be cleared up and you'll be fine. Like, I've had a lot of young girls go through this with constipation, and this will clear you right up and it'll get rid of the pain, and this is what it is. I'm like almost certain that it's constipation, which that right there is what annoyed me, is this doctor's certainty that it was constipation and it was an impacted colon, and that's what was causing this. Because I would like to say that I know my body pretty well. I've, experienced constipation from time to time. I'm sure we all have. And I knew that this was more than just like routine constipation. But alas, I did what the doctor said. So for 2 weeks, I took all those supplements, all those things, fiber, probiotics, laxatives, stool softeners, everything. And it was miserable, a miserable, horrible experience. But I did it because that's what the doctor told me to do. And after 2 weeks, I went back to that same doctor and was like, guess what? I'm still in pain. So obviously it wasn't constipation or an impacted colon or whatever. So I actually listed what I took that an x-ray showed that I had an impacted colon. So I took Miralax, stool softeners, fiber, probiotics, magnesium, and laxative teas for about 2 weeks. And then once I went back, to the doctor and I got another x-ray, it had shown that the impaction was gone, but I was still experiencing the same symptoms. So, in an overall list of my symptoms, I'll just kind of read this. It's pain in lower right back, and this was before surgery and, the symptoms I was feeling that led up to the diagnosis, mind you. Pain in lower right back and lower right abdomen. The pain at first kind of felt like numbness or tingling, but I later went on to describe it as electric or shooting pain. A lot of it felt like, the best way I could describe it is if you've ever used a TINS machine or TINS unit for pain, and how that kind of feels like electrical and shooting through your body. That's kind of what the pain felt like. I don't know if that makes any sense. The newest symptom, this is from May 2nd, 2022. The newest symptom I had been experiencing was soreness to the touch of my right side near my hip bone and even up to my rib cage. Pain can extend all the way from the right side of my pelvis up to the right side of my rib cage. Pain sometimes feels like it's hot or warm, almost like a burning sensation. And I had noticed that a lot. And before the diagnosis, when I was doing research trying to figure this out, I found a whole forum of women saying that they felt as if someone was holding a blow dryer to their abdomen or whatever. And that's kind of what it felt like, a weird burning warm sensation. Very strange. And in that forum, a lot of people were saying that they were diagnosed with endometriosis. So at that point I was still thinking maybe this is just endometriosis and it's gotten worse and I'll need surgery for it. And the last symptom I noted is that the right side of my abdomen feels tight and tense, and to me I was like, oh, maybe it was some scar tissue or a pulled muscle or something. So after I saw the PCP, my primary care physician I went to, that, for the follow-up after the 2 weeks of the treating the impacted colon, they told me okay, the next step is to go to your gynecologist and get an ultrasound. Sorry, I couldn't remember the word. An ultrasound to rule out any cyst or anything that could be going on. Went, had that done, had the ultrasound, everything came back normal and healthy. And so after talking with my doctor, I saw my regular gynecologist, and she said that she brought up the idea that it could have been kidney related. So it could have been kidney stones or kidney infection, something like that. So at that point, we were going to do a special kind of x-ray for the kidneys, but everything happened so fast. So we had that scheduled, but in the meantime, we had that scheduled for the next Friday or something, right? And in the meantime, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I just want to get like a CT scan still because I feel like there's something more here. So we went back to my primary care physician, saw a different doctor, still not my regular doctor, but told her about like everything, all my symptoms, and she checked me out and whatever. And I was kind of at that point, it was more urgent to me, so I was very persistent in that I was like, I want, sorry, okay, some pain, ow. I was like, I want blood work and I want a CT scan and I want those done as soon as possible. So that same week I got blood work done. Everything came back normal with my blood work. Had urinalysis, all those tests, everything came back fine. Briefly, they thought that it was like I had a UTI, and so they prescribed me antibiotics, and I took those for a few days. But I was like, "There's no way I have a UTI. Like I've had a few UTIs in my life, and that's not this." And so then had another like urinalysis, and it came back fine. So don't know what the deal was with that. But then I had the CT scan, and this is where just everything went crazy. So, I had the CT scan on May 10th. So I had the CT scan in the morning, went in the morning just thinking, maybe it's a kidney thing, maybe it's whatever, I don't know. Then, later that kind of early afternoon, maybe around like noon, I don't know what time it was, 11, 12, maybe 1, I received a phone call from the doctor who, scheduled the CT scan and told me, like, your liver looks fine, your kidneys are fine, your uterus and everything, bladder, everything is fine, but we found a mass. And I just remember receiving that phone call, and it just flipped my world upside down. She told me, I don't even remember all that she told me. I think she told me that it was like in my thoracic spine, they found a mass, and they couldn't see all of it, so you're gonna need to get an MRI. And so I was trying to like hold back from crying, and so I just told her, I was like, okay, thank you so much for calling and letting me know. And then the phone call ended, and I was in shock, I guess, I was home alone, and I received that phone call, and everything in that moment came crashing down on me. It was so scary and overwhelming, and I called my mom, and she was at work, so she couldn't pick up, so I called her and was just like, hey, I got results, like, I need to talk to you. I didn't want to tell her over the phone, but then so I hung up, and then I called and left another message, and at that point I was just like bawling, because I was like, I really need to talk to you, because they called and they said they found a mass, and I don't know what that means and what's gonna happen and whatever. So she called me back a few minutes later, and my mom, and we were both crying on the phone and freaking out, as understandably so, one would under such circumstances. And she was calling around all afternoon trying to get me in for an MRI as soon as possible, and we found one. It was a bit of a drive, like almost an hour away, but it was the soonest we could get in, and so we took it, and it was like a night MRI, so it was like scheduled at like 7:30 or something, but we arrived early and they were able to get me in early, and that was terrifying. I remember going in and just trying to be brave, and I just kept praying the whole time. I was like, Lord, just heal me, like, let it go away, let it, like, I need a miracle kind of thing. And unless you've had an MRI, I don't think you can truly understand, like, how scary it is to, like, experience that. It's so loud, and it's a long process, and it's scary. And I mean, the people who, like, helped, you know, with the MRI or whatever, they were still really nice and whatever, but it was still really scary. Because I also had to get an MRI with dye, so I had to get, like, an IV with an injection of dye or whatever. After the MRI, it might sound like I'm coughing pathetically, but it hurts to cough, so that's literally, like, the most I could cough right now. After the MRI was over, I walked back out in my gown and saw my mom, and my grandma showed up and, like, surprised us because I told her how I was going to have that and how I knew my mom would be waiting and that she could use, you know, the company, because I don't know, I think the MRI took like about an hour. And as soon as I walked in the door and saw my mom, I just broke down crying because I had been holding it in, and I was just trying to be so brave and so strong, and just, like, seeing my mom and being able to hug her, and just, it was just so scary, and it was all happening so fast, because just that same morning, I found out that I had a tumor, and it just, you know, it shakes your world. That's one of those things. I need the tissues. Okay. After that, went home, waited for the results. I don't know if they called the next day or if it was, I feel like it was the day after. I don't know. But I'll see if I made note of that. I'm assuming it was a day or two after the actual MRI. And at that point, with the, like, diagnosis of what it was and whatever, that it was what they thought it was in the CT scan. So at that point, following the MRI with the diagnosis, I had to have an appointment with a neurosurgeon, and then I had to have a biopsy. I don't know what day I had my first appointment with the neurosurgeon, but I had the biopsy on May 20th, which was literally just 10 days after finding out I had a tumor. A tumor that was approximately, like, I think it was 7 centimeters by 5 centimeters or something is what the MRI results had. On the 20th, I had the biopsy. Went in early for that. I was at the hospital for like 5 hours total, I'd say. Then went home, napped, and I was sore for a few days, but nothing like I am now, I can say that. The biopsy itself had to go in, and it was like a needle biopsy. It was CT led, So I had to go in and lay stomach, oh, that hurts, okay. Stomach down with my arms like up like this. Oof, you could see my bruised hands, okay. With my arms up like this, and they like helped get me comfortable with pillows and whatever. And they just gave me like light sedation, so I wasn't like under like full anesthesia or anything. And then, you know, they did a CT to like figure out where they needed to go in to take the biopsy. And the way that the doctor described it to me, the one who did the biopsy, was like that they're going to go in with a needle and then it's going to kind of like click, and so it takes like some tissue or whatever from the tumor. And it was funny because before he was like, if it is what they believe it to be, a nerve sheath tumor, it's gonna hurt even with the lidocaine that they would be using, that I'd be able to feel it. And even though I was like really drugged up and like sedated or whatever, I remember being able to feel like the kind of like tingling or whatever sensation when they actually took some samples from the tumor to test it. And I vaguely remember afterwards telling the doctor, I was like, I felt that, like you said, I felt that. Overall, that was okay, definitely very minor in comparison to the later surgery. So at that point, after that, you know, we got the results that the tumor was benign and it was a schwannoma. Complicated, and it's a very rare thing. Which I also forgot to mention that when I first had the appointment with my neurosurgeon, you know, got to ask him questions about whatever and talk about whatnot. And this was before the biopsy, so there were some questions he was like, well, can't say now because haven't had the biopsy done, don't know the specific type of tumor. So, anyways, we were asking, like, one big question I had was like, well, how long has this been there? Because at that point, realizing that I had this tumor, it made me think, well, geez, is this what's been causing the pain, and is it not endometriosis at all? And we asked him, how long do you think this tumor's been there? And just like, no hesitation, he was like, maybe like 10 years. And so me and my mom are sitting there and we both just like look at each other out of like shock. And we're like, are you serious? Because 10 years ago is when I started having the periods, and it's when I started having the pain that I thought was endometriosis. Like, so after the biopsy, went back, saw him again, and he, you know, gave us the news, like, confirming that, like, oh, it's fine. And I will say, though, there was a bit of a wait, maybe, like, a week to see him after the biopsy, and we hadn't heard from the hospital, we hadn't heard news yet, and they told us, like, oh, if they don't call with news, it's good news, like, no news is good news kind of thing. But to me, no news was cause for anxiety and panic, because, hello, I'm me. So, you know, I was freaking out, like, thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, what if, like, whatever. But went and saw him, and he, you know, like I said, told us it's a schwannoma, it's a nerve sheath tumor. And it was funny, okay, not funny, but on the, like, MRI, they said, like, it's either this or this. And so they said, like, a schwannoma or a neuroblastoma, and a neuroblastoma was, like, a cancerous one. And he told us, he was like, yeah, they said it could have been that, but that was, like, so far-fetched. And it was like, he's like, I knew it wouldn't have been that. So I was, like, very relieved to hear that. So then fast forward into June, I think I had another appointment with the neurosurgeon, and then he wanted me to see a different surgeon who he would be working with in the surgery. I'm gonna look up his name because I cannot for the life of me remember what type of doctor he is. vascular surgery. He's a vascular surgeon. Like a cardiovascular, I suppose. So, saw him. Had to go see this doctor sometime in June. I don't remember what day it was. But met him, and at this point, neither me or my mom really knew many details about the surgery and what it would entail. And so go in and have an appointment with this second doctor. He was the kind of doctor who's just like, this is absolutely everything that I'm going to do and everything that's going to happen, and I'm going to give you all the gory details. Because, like, we went in there, and he was like, hi, nice to meet you. Like, okay, let's see where it is. Let's go look at the MRI. So this is what it is. This is what we're going to have to do to take it out. So he's the one who told me in that very first appointment, very first meeting, he was like, yeah, we're going to have to go in. The incision's probably going to be about, like, this big or something, maybe longer. We're going to have to lay you on your side. Going to make you nice and comfortable. It'll take an hour to do that. You'll be asleep. You'll have the tube intubation inside you, and gonna have to take a rib out, have to deflate your right lung, maybe move your liver, whatever, to have access to that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sat there looking at this man, like, trying not to freak out. But I did eventually cry in his office, and he was very sweet. He was trying to look for a tissue for me, but there were no tissues in that room. But he was very nice and reassuring that, like, hey, it's okay to be scared, and it's normal and whatever, but that I had two of the best surgeons taking care of me that were, like, older guys, and he was, like, joked that, like, older guys are the kind of, surgeons you want doing surgery on you that have experience and whatever. So I'm going to have to sit back again because I'm in pain. At that point, after seeing him, I had to see my neurosurgeon one more time the day before surgery, so it was like a pre-op, so I saw him on the 22nd, and that was such a blur. I don't even remember. It was just kind of like a, do you have any other questions? Like, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Kind of like a hi and bye sort of thing. And then June 23rd was the surgery. So, the night before, I had to shower, and I had to use Dial soap because Dial soap's antibacterial. And then the morning of, I also had to shower once again with Dial soap because antibacterial. And mind you, that was the last shower I had for like 10 days. I've been showering daily now, luckily, but for a while there, that was the last shower I had for a long time, and it was not fun. I was smelly and I felt disgusting. But I had, like I said, surgery on the 23rd. Went into the hospital, got dressed in a gown. I had to put socks on, and I had to wear, like, hose for, like, to prevent blood clots in my legs. Then they gave me some special cocktail for anxiety. And then, next thing I know, I'm being wheeled out. And this guy's talking to me, asking me some questions. I think he asked me about, like, hobbies or what I do, and I told him I'm a writer and how I've written books and stuff like that. And then he asked me, like, what high school I went to, and then I told him, and then that's the last thing I remember. I will say, though, that I remember being wheeled into the surgery room, and it was very big and very scary. It was, like, so big, and a lot of it looked like metal, and there was, like, a big TV over to my left side, I guess, so they could, like, see stuff and whatever. there was a lot of people in there too. And from the bed that they rolled me on, I had to get onto like the surgery platform thing. And then I don't remember anything after that. All I remember after the surgery is somehow I ended up somewhere else and I heard people talking. And they were talking and my eyes were closed and I was just like, something's going on around me, but I am unaware of it. um, and then eventually I heard my mom and my grandma. So at that point I was like, okay, I'm not in surgery anymore. Because I was like, oh my gosh, am I like hearing stuff in surgery? But it was after surgery, and I remember I kind of like tried to open my eyes a few times, and the lights were so bright. I think at one point I was like, am I on a UFO? I was super out of it. Understandably so. I had been in surgery for like 5 hours. And the first 2 days after, my throat was so sore. Okay, I wouldn't say it was sore. It didn't really hurt. But I had a very hard time talking. I was very hoarse. And I made a joke with my mom that's some weird thing that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to lose my voice. And I was like, but these are not the circumstances under which I wanted to lose my voice for. So, I lost my voice, and it was really hard for me to talk. So, like, you know, especially those first 2 days, like, trying to communicate with my mom, like, if I wanted something or if I needed something, I'd be like, like, it was just very difficult. And so I spent the first 3 nights. Maybe I spent 2 nights. I spent 2 nights in ICU, but 3 days in ICU total. And the sad thing is, the second night, I was unaware that my mom couldn't spend the night more than one night. So literally, like, it was like 7:55 or something, and then they were like, oh yeah, you know you can't spend the night, right? And so here I am, just having had major surgery, and then with all my anxiety and stuff, I'm like, my mom's not going to be there. I'm going to have to spend a night alone in this hospital, hooked up to all these things. At that point, I still had, like, an oxygen monitor and, like, an IV and, you know, my drain tube, and I had a catheter and heart monitor. I was plugged up, hooked up to a lot of stuff. I was being monitored 24/7, my breathing, my heart rate, everything. And also I keep forgetting to mention the fact that I had a freaking catheter. I had a catheter. I didn't know if I would have a catheter or not, but I mean, it kind of makes sense that I had a catheter. I think I had it. I want to say, I think I had it into the 3rd day, and they took it out like midday on the 3rd day. And that's on the 3rd day is when I first stood up successfully and was able to, like, use the bathroom. I will say I was really nervous about having a catheter and having to have that removed, but for me at least, it wasn't that painful to have it removed. So luckily, you know. Hello, editing Lauren here. I'm sorry, but I have to add this. I don't know if I'd talk about it in this video later on, but if not, I'm adding it now. That catheter was so painful and uncomfortable to have in. Anytime I would like move or like adjust myself to like sit up a bit more or scoot over, it hurt so bad. It was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, I could not wait to get that thing out. And oh, it was awful. It was awful. But on the second day, physical therapists came in and they were like, okay, it's time to get up and walk around and stand up and whatever. And it was way too soon for me to do that. So when they tried to get me up, I just immediately was like, that's not going well. And my blood pressure tanked and I felt like I was about to pass out. And so they tried to like sit me back on the bed. And as they were trying to like sit me back and hurry to do that, the drain tube that was connected to me, I, like set on it funny and it popped open. And that was scary and it felt very weird. It felt like air just gushed into a hole in my side, which it did. And so they like hurriedly tried to like put that back together or whatever. Very weird, very uncomfortable, not fun experience. Anyways, back to the third day. The third day they had told us that like, okay, you'll probably be moved out of the ICU into a regular room. And don't know when that's going to happen. So at that point, you know, my mom couldn't stay a third night, so she had to leave again. And me and my mom are really close. She's like my best friend. I say she's like, she is my best friend. And so I wanted her there. And so it like broke my heart to like not have her there for another night. So I was really hoping that they'd be able to move me. So then at like 10 p.m., they're like, we're moving you to a room. And I was like, because at that point my mom had already gone home, but we were kind of under the knowledge that like I might be moved. So she like went home, took a shower, packed some more stuff, and was like ready to come back if, you know, the possibility presented itself. I need to sit up now. Ugh. So the third night I was moved to a regular room, and that was hectic and whatnot. And moved to a regular room, and my mom came up, and from that point on, you know, spent the nights with me. She did have to go home a few times during the day just to like get more stuff and like whatever for staying at the hospital, because we ended up staying at the hospital for like 10 days. Not expected at all. When we were talking to the surgeons before the actual surgery, they estimated 3 to 4 days. But since there was a complication, I had to stay longer. So, getting to that point, I had the drain tube, and I had to have the drain tube since my lung was collapsed, and because, like, reinflating my lung or whatever, and I don't know all the reasons, but I had to have a drain tube. Very painful, not fun experience. Very uncomfortable having to get up and go to the bathroom and, like, carry that with you. Not fun. Also, you want to know what's not fun? Having to carry that while you're also hooked up to an IV. Having to roll that pole with you and have that. Not a fun experience. I have to add this because I just thought of it and I thought I'd share. So obviously coming back home after the surgery was a task in and of itself, but it also came with readjusting to living with a lot of pain, different pain than I had been experiencing, but also just kind of navigating around that with the scar, without a rib, with the drain tube hole, that stuff. So with the drain tube hole, when I was in the hospital and I would have to get up to go to the bathroom, I would kind of... This is gross and kind of sad, but anyways, I would like reach for it to grab it. Let me show you like what I'm trying to say. My drain tube hole is right here, the scar. So I would have to reach for it, like, cause there was a tube sticking out of me, right? So when I would get up, I would like reach for it and grab it because it was very uncomfortable and it was like, it kind of tugged on me. So I would kind of grab it to whatever to like walk with me. My mom would help carry the canister or whatever that collected the fluid or whatever, but I would kind of hold it so there would be less tension on it, I guess, so it wouldn't like tug on me or anything. So I would always like reach over and like grab it to like whatever. So So when I got home, and every time I would get up in the mornings, or if I would need to go to the bathroom or something, I would automatically just like reach over, like trying to grab a tube that was no longer there. So yeah. And staying at the hospital was very difficult for me. I felt very discouraged, and I was just like, I would say the night times were harder for me just because, I couldn't be at home. I couldn't be like where, my safe space or whatever. So it was very hard for me come nightfall because I would just get emotional. I'd be like, I just want to go home. I'm so sick of this. I just, you know, um, especially because it was hard to get a good night's sleep when they were coming in every 4 hours to give me medicine, and then they were also checking vitals throughout the night too, and then I had to get like chest x-rays every morning, and who knows when they would come in. Sometimes it would be 3 a.m., sometimes it would be 6 a.m., sometimes it was 4 a.m. I don't know. So it was just very hard to get like any kind of restful sleep, and the beds were so uncomfortable. The bed, it was kind of like two pieces, the this moved, and then of course this kind of, the bottom part moved, but kind of like in a V where it would like crunch your legs up. So at this midpoint right here, there's like a bar. I slept on more of an incline, so my butt was like right here, and I was sitting right on the bar, and so after leaving, my butt was it hurt so bad, it was so uncomfortable. It's funny, I was like in pain a lot from like this and the surgery, but then I was like, my mom was like, how are you doing? I'm like, honestly, what hurts most right now is my butt. My butt hurts so much. Anyways, I don't even know what I was saying. I'm saying so many things, but overall the hospital experience was nice. Had a lot of great nurses and amazing doctors, and lots of people that checked in on me. A lot of doctors that I was just like, it was funny. It would be like, hi, I'm Hoover. And it's like, I don't know you, but hi, come on in. Yeah, check me out. See how my drainage is going. You want to see my incision? But I had a nice experience. It was, it was nice. And I had a lot of the doctors and nurses say that I was a great patient, and that I was just like, I guess like I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of them said that I was just always smiling and always so cheery and, encouraging or whatever, which was really nice. Even though I felt awful, I tried my best to be like a good patient and to be kind to everyone, because even though I feel bad, that doesn't mean that I should like take out my bad feelings on them. I did have one nurse who I will say, I loved all my nurses, okay? But there was this one nurse who I loved so much. Her name was Jennifer. I had two Jennifers. Honestly, it was funny. My first night there, I had a Jennifer, and then another day, I think she worked the day shift. I had the other Jennifer 2 times, so I include a picture of her. She was so sweet, and I loved her so much. And yeah, we just had such a good time talking to the nurses and talking about like, my faith and how that's helped us through so much and all this whole process and whatever. So, yeah, I guess I should explain why I had to stay longer at the hospital. So, the tube, basically they wanted it to drain. It drained like a certain amount of fluid per 24 hours or whatever. It was still draining a lot, and then they noticed that it was draining kind of like a milky looking thing, which it should not have been. It should have been more on the clear side of like clear reddish brownish kind of thing. And that indicated to them that there was a leak in my lymphatic duct, which they explained to me is like a little tube, like a angel hair pasta that helps filter the fat, and then it goes up and it goes like over here and then drains back down out of here or something. Very confusing. it was the lymphatic duct, and it was a chyle leak. Because of that, I had to go 3 days on a no food diet, basically. All I could eat was ice chips. I was on the diet of sips and chips. So sips of water and chips as in ice chips. So I consumed a lot of ice. Any new nurse that came, it would be like, yes, I need ice, and I need it every 2 hours, because I would get ice from my cup, and then I would get ice from my ice packs. I had 2 ice packs that were just always like right here, and on those 3 days, I was put on a PICC line. I have just this little Band-Aid here to cover it up. So I had a PICC line. The process of getting that was quite scary too, because the PICC line goes like in here and all the way and like down here or something. That was not a super fun experience, but I knew it had to be done. So I had that for 3 days. And then at that point, I was still taking antibiotics. Oh my gosh. I was taking lots of medicine. So when I say like I was taking medicine, I was taking a lot of different medicine. I was taking pain medicine. I was taking muscle relaxers, antibiotics, nausea medicine. Then I had shots in my stomach. I had 1 shot of blood thinner and then another shot to slow my digestion down, since I was like not eating. So, because I was still taking the antibiotics from day 1 made me really nauseous and made me feel like I was going to get sick. So that's why they started giving me nausea medicine before I would get my antibiotics, because it was IV, so it would like hit me real fast. And it worked. I was just kind of like trying to buck up and deal with it and like, be brave. But my body at that point, it was like, nope, no more. And so I got sick one night literally immediately after getting antibiotics. And then another night, I think it was like a day after, there was like a day in between getting sick, and then I got sick again. The day that I got sick again, though, was when I started eating again, because when I started eating again, I had to go on a fat challenge. So, if you know me, I have a very sensitive stomach, and so immediately after this, like, even when I was allowed to eat, I wasn't eating a lot. And, hold on, sorry. Even after the surgery, when I was allowed to eat, I wasn't eating a lot. I was eating, like, crackers and saltines and plain Cheerios and stuff. So, having to go straight to, like, eating, like, fatty food. For me, my fatty food was toast with lots of butter for breakfast. And then I had a baked potato with lots of butter and cheese for lunch. And I don't know if it was just too much too soon or what it was, but I got sick that night. After taking my medicine, I don't know if it was the medicine or if it was the food or what it was, but yeah, my stomach did not agree. And so after that, doing the fat challenge, did it like a couple of days. At that point, what day did I come home? Let me see. I think it was that I could have gone home Saturday the 2nd of July, but the doctor came by, who was the one who would remove the drain tube and kind of like clear me to go. And he said, he was like, I've known you for 5 minutes, I just met you, and I could send you home today, but it would make me feel more comfortable and give me reassurance if we waited one more day to make sure the drain tube is leaking or draining the color that it should be and whatever. So of course that's not the news we wanted, but we did what, the doctor thought was best and waited another day. So I went home on the Sunday, July 3rd. And, here I am. It is currently Saturday, July 9th, so I've been home almost a week. And I threw up on the 4th of July because I took my medicine altogether, or I don't know if it was because I was eating more food than I had been, or I also used a heating pad on my back because my back was hurting and I might have gotten overheated and that might have made me throw up. Don't know. I hate getting sick, so not a fun experience. I've been praying like every time I take my medicine and every time I eat, like, Lord, please help this food and medicine like agree with my stomach and let it not have any issues. So I've been doing okay. People are asking me how I'm doing. Still in a lot of pain. I had a major surgery. They had to remove a rib. Oh my gosh, I didn't even go into like my rant about that yet. First of all, when people ask me like, are you in pain? First of all, I'm gonna try to make this short. Yes, of course I'm in pain. I had a rib removed. I had a giant tumor removed that they said was the size of a baked potato. Yes, I'm in pain. Of course I'm in pain. And I have a giant 7-inch incision on me and a drain tube. Like, look at that. That doesn't even show all of it. And then I have all these spots on my stomach from shots, and I still feel numb down here, and I'm swollen, and it's uncomfortable. I cannot bend down. I can't lift stuff. Of course I'm uncomfortable. It hurts to sleep. It literally hurts when I, like, sit up after sleeping. Like, my chest hurts, and my shoulder hurts, and I have, like, pain, and it's like, yes, I'm in pain, okay? Do not ask me if I'm in pain, because the answer is, and will be, until further notice, yes. Moving on from that. I had a rib removed. My 9th rib on my right side is gone. Removed. Do I need to include the definition of removed? I will. Here, removed. Removed, as in, like, gone, never seen again. People have asked me, oh, did they put it back? No, they did not put it back. Removed. Removed. As in, like, it's gone forever. Removed. It's gone. Bye. Never seen again. No, they did not put it back. I'm ribless of my 9th rib. I have 23 ribs now instead of 24. Editing Lauren here again. I just have to but like talk about this because it was just so funny to me because people would always ask like, oh, but didn't they put it back? I'm like, honey, how could they have put a bone back? They literally sawed my rib off. Like, my doctor literally told me how they sawed it off. Like, they literally sawed my rib off. So, but also, because I have this huge space without a rib, the doctor who did all that said that the 2 ribs, like outlining it, that he like sewed kind of to come together a little bit to kind of help close that gap. So, not only that he sewed that, he drilled holes into the 2 surrounding ribs and to like kind of pull them a bit closer together to close that gap. So yeah, not only did I have a rib sawed off, I also had 2 ribs drilled into. It's whatever. Whatever. Okay, anyways, that's enough. Continue on. Which also I will say is kind of funny that I am 23 years old. I had surgery on the 23rd, and I went down to 23 ribs. A lot of 23s happening. Anyways, I just wanted to make this video, like, explain all that and going into detail about everything. Now I will insert pictures of the incision and the drain tube, whatnot. Oh, I will say, though, when I did get sick at home, because, let me sit up and I'll try to show you a little bit. I'm gonna have to lean this down. This is where the drain tube hole is. And here, I guess I'll just show you live in person. That's my incision. But I'll insert pictures as well that are better quality. Oh yeah, when I got sick, this ended up like leaking. I've obviously replaced it, and it's been replaced many times since, and a clean covering, but it leaked. It was very disgusting, and having to remove that, it like gushed everywhere. It was very gross. Sorry if that's TMI, but you know what? I'm sharing it all with you guys. Also, I debated on whether to include that picture or not, but whatever, I'm gonna include it. It's very gross, very graphic, very disgusting. But the reason that it leaked is because it wasn't sewn up. When you have a drain tube, it's complicated. They sew like the tube to your skin so it stays. So, you know, when it's tugged on or whatever, or when people would trip on it, it was very painful because, you know, you could feel it because it was like attached to you and inside of you. And I found out later that the drain tube, obviously, as you know, the drain tube it went in here, but it went all the way up and it set right here. So that's why I had so much shoulder pain afterwards. But anyways, they don't sew it after taking the drain tube out. They leave it open and it just takes forever to heal. So that's why, because of the pressure when I threw up, it pushed some stuff out. So it's gross, I know, but we called the doctor, sent them the picture of it, and they said everything was fine and that was normal under you know, the circumstances that happened. So yeah. So that's kind of the situation right now, and I will be completely honest, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm struggling a lot. It hurts to breathe, it hurts to cough, it hurts to sleep, and this recovery is just going to take time. But at least I can shower now. So there's that, you know, trying to look on the bright side of it all. Anyways, that's basically it. I just wanted to share this story with you guys. Just, I guess, maybe a lesson to be not afraid. Don't be afraid to be persistent about taking care of yourself and getting the medical care that you need. And that if you feel something is wrong, go with your gut and keep on about it. Like, keep being persistent about it. I've definitely thought about, like, what could have happened if I got found out about this sooner. If it had been found like 5-10 years ago, back when it was just starting, it could have just been radiated away, and I wouldn't necessarily have had to have that sounded very weird. I wouldn't necessarily have needed this surgery, but alas, I know that everything is in God's timing, and you know, just have to trust in that. And so yeah, I will say also that I've seen God's hand working in this and through this, that, you know, we prayed that, I didn't mention that the chyle leak and the lymphatic duct issue with the drain tube, that if that didn't heal, I would have had to have another procedure, and I was really scared and nervous about that. And so we were praying that it would heal, and that doing the like 3 days no food diet would help it. And I will say that seeing that heal itself was just like amazing, and having that repair and not need, you know, another procedure for that was awesome. And also, I know there's lots of details I forgot to mention, but I also forgot to mention that I got 100% of the tumor. It is completely gone. 100% of it is gone, and that is such a God thing, because the neurosurgeon was very honest in the fact that he's like, I'm going to get as much as I can, but if there's parts that are going to like potentially harm you, I'm not going to do that, and then we'll just have to radiate it later. But it's just a blessing that 100% of it was able to be removed. And it's funny, afterwards the surgeon said that it was kind of a bit of a troublesome tumor to get rid of, because of the fact that it had been there so long that it had calcified. So it was a stubborn little dude. And another little fun fact, I named my tumor. My tumor's name is Trevor. Why I named it Trevor? I don't know, just for the fun of it. Because why not? So that's basically it for this video. I'm still very much in the early stages of healing, So your prayers, continued prayers and love and support are still and always very much appreciated. I hope this story inspires you or comforts you or entertains you, or I don't know. But I mainly hope that it helps you to remember to take care of yourself and to trust your gut if you feel something is wrong with you or whatever, to be persistent about it and to get the care that you deserve. So yeah, that's basically it, and I'll see you in my next video. When will that be? I have no idea. Okay. That's basically it. So bye. Hello again, editing Lauren back to finish this video out, I guess. I want to add to what I was saying at the end about being persistent about your health and whatever, because at the end of the day, you know your body best, and if you feel that something is not right, then it is your prerogative to go and to pursue healthcare to find answers and to get answers. That you deserve answers to your health issue or whatever you feel is wrong, you know, and to be persistent and adamant about getting answers, because that's what, that's how I felt. Especially when I got to the point where I was like, I don't remember not being in pain and not having this pain. I was like, I need to get this taken care of. So, like I said, how I went to so many different doctors in pursuit of getting answers for this, and I did. And so I think it is very important to be your biggest advocate, and to be persistent about like, no, something's still not right. I need to get answers, because you deserve answers and you deserve the treatment that you need and, you know, answers. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling. But I can't remember if I said or not. I've been editing this video over the last couple of days, so I don't remember. But if not, I did mention, or I want to mention, that throughout this process, like, you know, all the prayers and whatever at the beginning of it, that I was just like, Lord, I don't know what this is, you know, before I knew the diagnosis. I was like, I don't know what it is, but you do. So please help us find an answer and find a diagnosis and figure this out. And so he did. So I just think it's important to take your health seriously. And if you feel like something is not right, then go get it checked out. Keep going to doctors. Keep going until you find an answer, because that's what you deserve. Also, I wanted to add, because obviously this video was filmed days after I got out of the hospital after my first surgery. And that's what I'm going to mention, my first surgery. I had a second surgery. So my second surgery was much less intense, but I did have to get a drain tube again. Boo, no fun. It was in a different place this time. It was in my incision, like right in the middle of where my incision is. So that was not fun, but it was a lot smaller. The way I could describe it is the first drain tube was like maybe like a nickel's width. I don't know. And then the second one was more like a straw's width. So if that makes sense. So it was a lot less space going up there. But then once again, it went up here. So same nasty shoulder pain that I had to deal with. So I had this second surgery August 29th, like just over 2 months after my first surgery. So I was very much still in the beginning stages of healing. I had to get a second surgery because I had fluid buildup in my chest in the right side. So one day, it was actually immediately after a checkup with my cardiovascular surgeon, went out to celebrate the good news of like, yes, I'm healing and whatever. And then I went on like a coughing fit, and then I felt like something crack inside of me. Nothing actually cracked, it just kind of felt like that. I had a weird feeling or whatever. So called the doctor, they're like, yeah, let's get you in for an x-ray. In the x-ray, that's where they saw fluid. Didn't even really know that, but looking back, it makes sense, because I tried to go swimming at a point where it was safe for me to like be submerged and whatever. And when I got in the water and like when it went up to here, it felt like I was like about to suffocate, because the pressure of the fluid in here, and it just felt like I couldn't breathe. And that was very terrifying. Very, very terrifying feeling. Also, another reason I knew something was wrong is because I couldn't lay down flat because it felt like I couldn't breathe. So also very scary. Very, very scary. So after that, I don't think I had to have a MRI for that. I think I just had an x-ray. And then I went in for a surgery. And that time, I think I stayed 3 or 4 days that time. So in total, like if we combine the both, I spent half a month in the hospital. Because the first one, I kept saying 10 days, but it was technically 11 days because I went home on the 11th day. So technically it was like 10 nights, 11 days, but you know. So, yeah. But the second hospital trip was definitely a lot less intense. I was in the IMC, which was a level above regular, like a regular hospital room, but a level below ICU. So the ICU is intensive care unit. The IMC is intermediate care. The surgery was very quick. I think it lasted like 10 minutes, maybe 15 at most. And well, I guess I'll show you this too. This is my previous incision. And this right here was where they went in with like a tube or something to suck the fluid out. And in the middle of this incision, I don't even know if you can really see anymore. I think it was like right there is where the drain tube was for the second surgery. So these are all my scars. So yeah. In the second surgery, they sucked out 2 liters of fluid from my chest cavity. Also, hear me clearly when I say chest cavity. It was not my lung. It was like the outside of my lung. Because some people got that mixed up and I was a bit confused about that too. So yeah, 2 liters, over 2 liters of fluid. And then I had a drain tube on top of that. So I got like more came out afterwards. But 2 liters, that's like one of those big soda bottles that I was just walking around with. Just another little, like a little soda bottle inside of me. Like what? That was crazy. Crazy. But yeah. Definitely the second hospital stay was much easier. Much easier. It was a breeze. I was eating the hospital food like it was a 5-star restaurant. I'm not kidding. So that's kind of like the whole story in, you know, a condensed version. I'm trying to write down everything I remember because hopefully maybe one day I'll like write a book about it or something. I feel like that'd be really interesting to write about the whole experience and whatever in a more detailed version. But anyways, that's kind of it. And as of right now, I am just over my 8-month healing, or, you know, I'm just over my 8-month post-op. And my cardiovascular surgeon did say that it would take 9 full months just in the initial recovery. So crazy. But he kept reminding me that because, you know, oftentimes when, you know, people go through surgeries and whatever, and then in their recovery, you're kind of like, you feel bad about yourself, especially me at the beginning. I was really hard on myself that I was like, I'm still hurting and this is so hard. And then he'd be like, 9 full months. So 9 months. So anyways, that's basically it. And thank you for listening to me and watching all this. And yeah, I don't know. But anyways, that's it. And yeah. Okay, bye.